What's going on, everybody? My name is Tyler Graham Stevens, aka TK, and you are now tuned in to TK Replay. Welcome, everybody. If you're like me, you spent the entire weekend listening to, that's right, Drake's new album, Views. I think over the weekend, the entire world has had enough time to really absorb and appreciate the album, so we're going to talk about it. Originally, this album was supposed to be called Views from the Six, or at least that's what we kept hearing from Drake and his camp. This man has been teasing and tantalizing us from short Vine clips to random singles to posts on his Instagram to features where he's talking about it to diss records. We needed the album and we wanted it now. Now, obviously, I'm a Drake fan and I'm going to be a fan of most of the albums that I review, so I would like to go over exactly how I am going to critique this album. So first, we have a genre outlook. Now, a lot of people from Travis McCoy to Kanye West to Kid Cudi to, Kid Rock, to Eminem, they all seem to at some point want to switch their style shift. And we can't blame them for that as artists. So what I'm thinking of doing, there's definitely a category of what genre the album should be and what genre is the album actually supposed to be or actually is. So, if you got a Trey Songz album and you were expecting an R&B album, but 80% of it he raps on it, would you call that an R&B album just because it was by Trey Songz? That's what I'm saying. Second, because it's the hip-hop base, I got to ask myself, based on each record, how the flow is. We got to talk about the message of the tracks and what kind of output it has and how it relates to the average person. Is it relatable? Is it relatable to most people? Is it related to a secluded kind of person? Like, how relatable is this album to the average person? Is it original? Or is this person just copying and pasting a style from another artist? And has the artist evolved since their last project? So based on this 6 criteria, I'm going to go through the 20 tracks of this album and see how it all stacks up. Track 1, To Keep the Family Close. When I first heard this record, I didn't really think it fit as an intro to one of Drake's albums. He's usually pretty, he usually has like a church choir and some very uplifting beats for that. But this album kind of seemed like thunder and storming, as far as feel.
How do you not check on me when things go wrong? Guess I should have tried to keep my family closer, much closer.
But the bass of the song is pretty damn good, and it kind of feels off until about half a minute into the record. Then it all really smooths together. So track 2 is a record called 9. To be honest, I haven't really been able to listen to this album or this particular track all the way through. It kind of has it's a very spontaneous beat, and you'd expect somebody with like Kendrick's skill or J. Cole's skill or Pusha T's skill to kind of get up and eat it. But Drake's very 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 4 with it, and it's nothing really impressive. And so it's definitely a skippable track.
Mama hit my phone and said rap's no good.
Track 3 is You With Me. Now, most Drake fans will tell you if there's a phone call in the beginning of a Drake song, it's about to be unreal. Drake gets back on this record to his winning formula between rapping and singing, kind of doing this whole swang thing. And, it works for the record. It's definitely not a force, and it's definitely a good listen.
Slide on a late night, you like to slide on a late night.
Track 4, Feel No Ways. Now, if there's an award for most Ryan Gosling Drive-esque sound kind of hip-hop beat, I swear the man would definitely get it for this one. This beat is straight out of Drive. This song was first shown when Drake released a Vine of it a couple of months ago, and you only got that I was downtown whipping on the way to you from that, and it definitely got a lot of people all like, ooh, what kind of record is this gonna be? But it definitely got where it was supposed to be, and it's definitely a good record. It's at home at any cruising late night playlist, most certainly.
I should be downtown whipping on the way to you.
Track 5. So okay, you're 5 tracks into this album, and so far there hasn't really been a real heavy rap track, but track 5, he definitely gives it to you with Hype. Hype, as far as flow is concerned, it's not very complicated, it's not very crazy, but it definitely bumps and definitely would be, at home at any party playlist if you guys just want to turn up real quick. The best part about this record is that he kind of takes digs at the peers in the industry because, whether or not you like Drake, you can't even argue his influence on both the culture and the industry as a whole.
Money got it written on me. Okay, now we got some action. Everything I said it happened.
It's gotten to the point where, certain artists like Mac Miller say, I did it all without a Drake feature. Just insinuating that anybody who's anybody, has to have a Drake feature. Continue with the rap flow. Drake definitely comes with some nice bars on Western Road flows. It's more of his, ride with me kind of flow where he does the whole talk rap thing.
Together, yeah. But here we are, and it's a new semester. 40, the only one that know how I deal with the pressure.
Definitely an area where he's comfortable in, and if anybody was curious as if to, he was writing his own records as far as like bars, I think this kind of like gives him, this is his motif, and you can't look at Quentin Miller or Party Next Door or whoever, to say that they wrote this, because nothing that they have even remotely sounds like that. Switching back over to the sensitive side of things, Redemption. Ladies, if you're watching this, do yourself a favor, pause my ugly ass, go over to Drake and listen to Redemption, and then come back so you can kind of see some kind of resemblance. You know what I'm saying? Definitely that kind of breakup song that Drake is so, fond to make. Song for the ladies, slow, smooth, perfect place in the bedroom.
Why would I tell you I'm 30 away if I'm not on the way?
Finally, with the Party Next Door feature, track 8, With You, features Party Next Door, and usually with his features, especially like his features on If You're Reading This Is Too Late, he kind of overpowers Drake and kind of takes the song for himself, or it almost seems like a Party Next Door song featuring Drake. But this time, the man, takes a step up and definitely evens the playing field, so it's not so overpowered by Party Next Door's so like vivid and original and strange vocals. I don't even know how to categorize this next song. The next song is the Pimp C song. It's called Faithful. It's featuring the late Pimp C and Division. And to be honest, I don't even know how to categorize this song. Shout out to 40 for making a beat that can absolutely slay over, a Past Away's rapper's, perfect acapella. That's definitely not an easy feat. And, if it wasn't for Pimp C's verse and, maybe the hook, which is literally just repetition of the word faithful, I think the record would have been garbage. But luckily, both those were there, and it worked out.
You would think it's all mine, the way I took it. Yeah.
Shifting back into rap land, Drake decides to take shots at more of his peers and kind of establish himself in the rap game with the record Still Here. It's definitely a dig at Meek Mill and anybody who's saying that he can't create his own lyrics, because he's saying it in the record. He's still here. He does it by himself, and like if you're not from around where he's around, then he can tell. Know what I'm saying? Bars were nice, flow is nice. This is probably the best rap record on the album so far. Now, track 11 and 12 can almost be the same track. It's Controlla and One Dance featuring Kyla and WizKid. They both play on Drake's urban island roots. You got Beanie Man at the end of Controlla doing the interlude. And, good records, definitely radio-friendly, summer-friendly records, getting you ready for the season, but seemingly a little out of place on the record. It's almost like the idea that I thought the album was Views from the Six, like where he's sitting, like how he sees his city and like the ins and outs of his city. And when you throw, the Jamaican records in there, it's just like I don't really feel like, you know what? Maybe there is a crazy Jamaican presence in Toronto. I don't know. All I know is that, I know you're not seeing palm trees, from that building, bruh.
One more time I go, I was taking my hold on me.
Track 13, Track 13 is essentially all of what was in What a Time to Be Alive and gives you a quick little showcase of the magic that Fuge and Drake can put together in one record. And some people love it and some people hate it. It's all, what melts your butter. So, take a listen. Record, the 14th track, Child's Play, there's a hilarious little interlude beforehand. But besides that, it's an alright record. It's kind of, giving more of a playful, outish feeling than like what the record is actually saying. But another record for the ladies, and just same old Drake. Number 15, Pop Style. When we first heard this record for the first time, it featured Jay-Z, not so much, and Kanye West. Their version was, perfectly fine, but a couple weeks after that, or actually a couple days after that, we got a new verse from Drake on the record. And everybody kind of just put that out there as like, oh, Drake with the second verse. And, it turns out that, that's the record on the album. So I don't really know if that's some shade being thrown at the throne. Watch it. But I think it's a better record now without them. Track number 16, Too Good, featuring Rihanna. I cannot be upset with this record because Rihanna and Drake have a crazy chemistry and a completely winning formula. And, Too Good is going to go up there with Take Care and Work and, any other future collabs that they're going to have together because they just make radio magic. And, I can see this being on the radio this week. I don't know how to talk to you. I don't know how to ask you if you're... Track 17 is an interlude. The only record so far in the 20-record album that Drake actually isn't in. If you listen to a Jay-Z, a Kanye West, there's a lot of different rappers and singers that do this, but a lot of them will have records, 3, 4, 5 times on an album that they're not really even in. And not in the sense if it's a skit and they're not in it, but like in the sense if it's like an artist orchestrated sound that they were just like, oh, I like that. Let me pay the money to have that on my album. It's a little tasteless and it's a little aggravating to me as a listener, especially when I know that some of these artists could easily collaborate with these people and make an even better music experience for us, the listener. Duh. Number 18, personally my favorite record on the entire album, a R&B heavy record, kind of a reminiscent of Your Lady record. It's called Fire and Desire. And if you have just had a breakup, you should stay away from the song because it'll tear you to pieces, man. It'll tear you to pieces. And last but not least, well, almost last but not least, but the last original song on here is Views. And Drake goes out with his usual thing, just like how I thought the intro would happen with the the choir and the upbeat beats. Drake kind of gives that for the outro, and definitely gives you some good ambiance. You can almost picture him standing on top of the building rapping this shit. And he has some good bars. Does it again with a kind of talking rap thing, but he gets it down and he does his business. And lastly, track 20, Hotline Bling. I don't need to talk about that record because we've all formed our own opinion on it. You used to call me on my cell phone. So out of my 6 criteria, it's going to be a scale between 0 and 5 on how I think that this album lived up to whatever it is. So you're going to have 30 possible points, and based on that is the percentage of what kind of grade I'll give it. Fair? Sounds fair. So, First, we have what genre was the album and what genre was it supposed to be. Now, if we're talking Drake, there's definitely a line between where he's at as far as the whole singing and rapping thing. His identity is certainly in between the both, but Drake's a rapper, and we treat him as a rapper. We don't treat him like an R. Kelly or a Chris Brown or a Ty Dolla $ign. We treat him like a Jay-Z or a Kanye West. That's how we do it. So this was supposed to be a rap album. That being said, out of the 20 tracks, let's see. 9 tracks of the album were R&B heavy. So I'm gonna go ahead and give him a 3 out of 5 for not sticking to the rap and not giving us as much rap as we needed. Not to say that those records were bad, but when you listen to a Drake album, although you do expect some singing, it should be some singing. How are the flows? So I feel like a lot of people get a little messed up with this one. When I say flows, I mean flows as a whole. I mean from the first track to the last track, from the singing to the rapping to the instrumentals, to the drums. Like everything needs to flow. And when Drake's bars weren't really on point, his singing bars were like double on point. His melodies in this were absolutely fantastic. Regardless if he wrote it, Quentin wrote it, Party Next Door wrote it, doesn't matter. The flows on this album were good. And I got to give it to the man, so I'm going to go ahead and give him a 5 out of 5 for flows. So how's the message? The thing with Drake music as opposed to Kendrick Lamar music or Kanye West music is that, where Kendrick focuses on a very specific, well, not a very broad but narrow view of injustices and things that happen in his world, as does Drake. It may not be as drastic as gangbanging in Compton, but Drake's life is, the emotional fluctuation of love between having somebody and not having somebody, thinking you're on top and then not being on top, people fucking expecting something of you and you having to deliver it. Those are the kind of struggles that, he's dealing with, and as, not serious as those may be, they're just as relatable, which is why Drake sells so well, because he's pretty relatable in his music. The message isn't that great, so I got to give him a 2 out of 5 for the message. Being relatable, however, like I just explained, is completely different. Drake is extremely relatable, and where I see that a lot of people who listen to Kendrick Lamar might not fully understand where he's coming from, with Drake, especially in North America, a lot of us can relate with, the very emotional and trivial issues that he has. So as far as relatability, got to give him a 5 out of 5. Is it original? Yes. Yes. It's original in a sense of that Drake does this kind of sound, and he's been doing this kind of sound, and he's perfected this kind of sound. So yes, I also give him a 5 out of 5 on originality. And has he evolved from a artist? Yes, it is good, but I got to give him a 4 out of 5 on originality, because although he seems to be perfecting this craft, he's not really pushing the envelope where it should be. Has the artist evolved from the last project? If we're talking from What a Time to Be Alive, absolutely. If we're talking about Nothing Was the Same, absolutely. I think Drake's definitely getting into his own. He's definitely getting into a groove. So I got to give him another 4 out of 5 there. So with those scores, it gives Drake a 23 out of 30. And if you guys want to do the math, you could, but I got it right here. So that's a 7.6 out of 10. Honest, truthful, and, how I see it. So that's what I think of views. If you disagree or you want to have a talk with me, or you just feel like yelling at me and calling me stupid, feel free to tweet me, TylerGSCVF on Twitter. Or you can hit me up on Instagram at ChapterVFilms. And if there's anything that you guys want me to review next, please let me know. But until next time, I'm TK, and it's the replay.